I ask you a question? Are you ready to get and keep momentum in your business? I hope so, because it's Penny Elliott here, your host to having the perfect mix of the woo with the do. If you're ready to create the life that you want through a business designed by you, then tune in. Welcome to another episode of Get Momentum for Online Entrepreneurs podcast with your host, me, Penny Elliott. This is the show where we match the woo with the do. So it's your perfect mix of mindset and strategy to have fast success in your online business so you can finally live the life you thought you were going to when you first started your business. And today I have the amazing Monica with us, who is all things Pinterest, which I'm super excited to get to know you a little bit more and get to know more about how we can use Pinterest in our business, because it keeps popping up as this sort of like untapped resource that never goes away. It keeps building for you, yet it hasn't sort of got the glamorization of Facebook and how everyone flocks to Facebook. But I feel like it is the unsung hero in the online advertising world and online get to know you world. And everyone knows what Pinterest is and everyone, goes to it. So I'm excited to learn from you about how we can add this into our business and how we can use it as a driving force to get consistent clients. So welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
So I'm sure you've got a very formal introduction, and I see that, you've had some huge successes in corporate as well. So please let the listeners know who you are, what you do, and how you serve them.
All right. So the fast story is that I never was going to start a business. That was not actually on my roadmap whatsoever. So I spent 11 years working for a really large Fortune 100 company in the tech space, and I ran multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns with large brands. And then I got my MBA, and this is like, I was on the corporate track. That was what I was going to do. And then in 2012, I had my first baby. And in the United States, we have horrible laws for maternity leave.
Like null and void.
Yes, they don't exist. And the things I learned when I had my first child, and I got really angry about it. I had undiagnosed postpartum, which led me to start a blog, because I actually, as my mom would say, I'm a loudmouth and I have opinions. So I thought, fine, why is it like this? So I'm going to put it out on the internet and we're going to change it. And so I started a blog, not having any idea what I was getting myself into. And then I got invited to go to the White House to talk to President Obama about my experience as a working mom, what I thought should change with the laws. And I actually took that experience and actually gave it to him straight, what I actually thought should change. So I did not mute myself whatsoever. He called me a Spitfire, and and I am. So I left that. That was in 2015, and I took my blog, and I thought, this is going to be a thing where we're going to help empower women, particularly moms, because redefining mom, to really break out. And now I say to achieve financial literacy, to have financial literacy and achieve financial independence. And basically I teach that through taking their skills primarily from the corporate world and bringing them online. And then like kind of a side thing that happened out of it, I found out I was really good with Pinterest ads. So for the last 3 years, I've sort of been doing the two things in tandem, because I have this huge audience that is very interested in how I got started in the online world and how I brought my skills here. And I appeal to that. But then what I've been making money off of has been teaching people how to DIY their own Pinterest ads. So it's been a really crazy journey.
Wow. And I just want everyone to hear that. You, before we got on here, Monica said, I'm not quite sure, you've interviewed someone who's helped brand the royal family. I'm sorry, you just said, can you repeat that you were just standing in front of President Obama telling him sort it out, because the corporate world and being a mom is just not the right way?
Yeah, I did that. I mean, I kind of figured.
Oh, classic. Yeah, I don't think that compares to branding with the royal family. Not at all.
I will say, when he sent me on my way, his call to action to me, we care about call to actions in marketing. His call to action to me was, pretty much, like, he listened to everything I had to say. He's a very engaging person. He shows empathy, I'll say. Like, he's able to empathize, I kind of felt like. And then, but I mean, he said to me, he's like, okay, so now what are you going to do about it? It was kind of like,
Good.
change it then. Like, you know, and I'm not going to be a politician. I'll tell you that. People would not vote for me. I'm way too opinionated to be a politician. So
Got that. I think that's quite a good American trait to have, to be a politician.
I cannot. No, I do not want to be an American politician. That is not the life I want. So, you know, I start my own business, make my own money, and then use my money to be able to help other women achieve the same sort of life that they want.
Perfect. So instead of going down the lobbying route to get the laws changed, which is a long, arduous process, you're basically taking what Obama said to you, what are you going to do about it? He was empowering you to then empower all these other women to not have to stay in corporate America.
Correct. And a very direct example of this would be, I have 2 full-time employees, and one of my full-time employees is on maternity leave. And in the States, especially as a small business, we don't have to pay for that. Like, and there's no federal, and in many cases, no state laws that will also pay. So many women take unpaid maternity leave, and their jobs aren't even protected with a small business. So how can I have a platform where I'm pissed off about this and then not offer full maternity leave? So I offered a full paid maternity leave. And I cannot tell you the number of men who told me I was crazy for doing that. Several men said that I should not hire women of childbearing age. Yes.
I'm not even going to really, that doesn't even deserve a comment. That's just disgusting. Yeah, it is absolutely disgusting. I mean, I don't think we realize how lucky we are in New Zealand. We've got Jacinda Ardern as our Prime Minister, and she had a baby as soon as she became Prime Minister. She took 6 weeks off, but she's, her baby's about 3 or 4 months older than mine. So I've been riding the wave of her going through the system and realizing, you know, where the pitfalls are. And we get 26 weeks paid. Our jobs are protected. You know, it is much better. In the UK, it's nearly a year, or I think it's 9 months and then 75%. So there are incidences in, you know, in the world where actually it can be done. So America.
Oh yeah, it can be done pretty much. It can be done pretty much everywhere in the modern world except for America. So we're told. I mean, it's a real big sore point for me. I will say that. But I mean, it really lit a fire to change, to make a change. And so, you know, the thing about Pinterest is, I guess Pinterest is known for the place where women go to get inspiration. That's literally their tagline pretty much. And so what better place to reach women than to be an expert marketer on the platform that they all flock to?
Amazing. So, I mean, the question that I always ask is like, how do you create consistent clients? And like, how do you get that flow? What's your secret sauce? So what I'm hearing is you created this movement that you're like super passionate and kind of pissed off about, and pissed off and passion always sort of mold in together to make a really good fire. It's like pouring petrol on kindling. So what I'm hearing is you went to where your clients hang out, and then became genius in that.
Yeah. So essentially what happened was my people were on Pinterest. So as someone who was I got started as a content creator. That's what a blogger is. A blogger is a content creator. I needed some place to put my content. I started creating pins. I started getting traction. But the thing that I noticed was missing in the marketing space for people on Pinterest was bloggers had the mentality of, I need more traffic, give me more page views. And I came from a very ROI driven marketing background. And I kept saying, but why? Like, my question was, they're on my blog, but what does that do for me? Like, what happens? And nobody was asking this question, and it irritated me, like most things, I guess. And so I said, well, let's do something about it. So I was getting a lot of traction on Pinterest, taking like the ROI first mentality, I guess you could say. The conversion first mentality is usually what I say. And I had a lot of other blogging friends that kept asking me questions like, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? Got to the point where I was getting asked the question so many times that I recorded 13 videos in 2017. It was not meant to be a course. It was just 13 videos, basically answering all the questions I kept getting asked. And from there, it took on a life of its own. once you get one person results, then the next person wants results and they recommend you to their friends. And it really turned into this whole big course suite that I have 4 Pinterest courses, and they all cover different aspects of Pinterest. I have organic marketing, affiliate marketing, building your sales funnel for Pinterest, and then Promoted Pins, which is their advertising platform. But I would say what I'm most known for is the advertising. And that's because, well, I have a lot of opinions on this, but basically Promoted Pins are like this mystery. It seems people know about YouTube ads and Facebook ads and Google ads. But if your ideal audience is on Pinterest, I mean, it is like, now that they're publicly traded, especially, the only way Pinterest makes money is off of advertisers. So there is a huge incentive to be an advertiser on Pinterest where there's virtually no competition and a ton of women. So
amazing.
Yeah.
So if like, so basically you have a promoted pin. So you, instead of creating a blog, like talk us through, so you put up some pins, like give me the 101 version of how you create a funnel. Is it the same as Facebook ads to a funnel to your list?
Okay, so here's the thing about Pinterest that really makes it stand out from any other platform. Okay, so the very first thing is Pinterest themselves don't want to be considered social media. And if you think about it, it's not really a social interaction platform. You're not on there talking to other moms on there. That's not what you're doing.
No, you're just finding stuff to look like a really good mom when they come over for a birthday party.
Exactly. It is a search engine, right? So the key to being a marketer on Pinterest is that it's a visual search engine. So I always compare it to Google. If you take really any topic, so I always use this one because I like to embarrass the men in the room. When I was looking for a good nursing bra, you would go to Pinterest. The mentality of someone going to Pinterest is actually a buyer's first mentality. They have a problem and they need a solution. So my problem was I needed a good nursing bra, and I actually go in and search that on Pinterest. Now, let's compare that to what happens on Google and Facebook. So on Pinterest, I put it in as a keyword, and I get presented with visual visual images, right? And so I can now connect, as the person who searched this, the images that are getting shown back to me, I can connect with them. It's visual imagery, and it produces a different feeling in us than if you go to Google, for example. Like one of my examples in my course is the Instapot. So when you go to Google and put in Google and you put in Instapot, you're asked to buy an Instapot. But when you go to Pinterest and you search how to use an Instapot, you're presented with actual imagery of people using it. So you can envision yourself using the Instapot, which opens this whole world where people can come in and educate you, paid digital products, on how to use an Instapot, instead of it just being like, you Googled how to use Instapot, you must want to buy one, right? So here it is to buy. Like Google, it's just this different experience, and Google is not nearly as visual as Pinterest. Then Facebook is an interrupter. So you don't go to Facebook ever looking for your Instapot or your nursing bra. However, they have a killer, there's 2 billion people on Facebook. So clearly, if you were ever on a website, they're going to retarget you on Facebook. So they all serve their different purpose, but the real key on Pinterest is that you have to think of it as, what is my person coming to? What problem are they searching? And what visual inspiration can I provide to them? And then, so basically their problem is the keyword. The search result is the inspiration. And once they click to your site, your sales funnel is the solution. So your sales funnel can be served up in terms of offering a freebie. It can be served up in terms of going right to the sale. That's the one thing that people don't understand about Pinterest, is they think, oh, it's bloggers and a bunch of how-to articles. Oh, no. People want to buy on Pinterest. You can send them directly to a sales page, directly to a product listing. So it's a pretty untapped market in terms of advertising.
Well, if we just if I look at my, when I was on Pinterest because my son turns 2 soon, and so I was making a board of all the different thingies, we're going to have a construction style one, and I was thinking oh, that'd be really good if I could just buy that whole pack, and you can click on it and make an absolute purchase straight away.
Yeah.
So that's a great example.
So this is the other thing too, since they become publicly traded, they have made a really big push for being a shoppable platform. And so has Instagram, for example, but it's just a completely different experience. Instagram requires more connection than Pinterest does. So it's actually, the thing is you really can make passive sales on Pinterest. So think about effort. There's some effort that goes into Instagram, and maybe I'm biased because I've been doing this a long time, but Pinterest to me, it kind of seems like, well, people are already there searching for it. I just have to show up. My content just has to be the one to show up in front of the right search result. And if you can do that, which is easy to do with promoted pins and basically no competition. I mean, it's like a no-brainer.
Amazing. And I'm sure we're going to get onto it later about how people can get in touch with you and work out how to use those promoted pins. But first of all, you say that there's no competition and it's a no-brainer, but I also like to, highlight to the audience, like where you've had a setback in your business or where it's been a bit, what the hell is going on? Because it's never a straight line to the top.
No.
And too many people online say that it is. And I really want to call BS on that. So
totally.
Yeah. When is a time that you've really had to dig deep to get momentum in your business after a setback?
Oh God. I mean, business is a bunch of failures mixed together to make a success. I mean, I am in complete agreement with you that I cannot stand the falseness. People say like, this is easy. It's kind of weird because it's, in some ways, it's like, wow, I see this limitless potential out there to make money on the internet, but it's hard work. And, you learn through your failures. I mean, there's so many times I failed. It's like, I don't know, which one should I choose?
You're not alone. Every time I ask this question to people, it's everyone laughs because, I think that, I've had a 6-figure launch and look, I was like filing my nails at the same time. People can totally see through that. Right. So I think that, what's the one thing I guess that when you do have a setback, what do you say to Monica to get your head back in the game?
Well, here was one that actually pretty much caught me off guard. This time last year, I hired my first full-time employee. So moved from contractors, moved on to payroll. That was a huge transition. And, it makes me laugh a little bit because I was, with my corporate career and getting my MBA in finance of all things, like I understand the importance of cash flow, but nothing prepared me for cash flow until when I put an employee on the books and suddenly it was like, oh, right. So like money needs to be there to pay when the payroll comes. It was such a mind bender for me.
Yeah.
It really like changed my perspective so much and I didn't see it coming. And it was pretty stressful at first when it was going on. Like it was not as easy as a transition as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. I'm really glad I did it. I have no regrets about it, but it really taught me the importance of, I was taking everything out of the business at that point. It was like, great, we have tons of money, and then it was great, but I also was working. I was in total burnout at that point. I was working way too much. I was snippy with my family. I needed to get legit help, but I wasn't planning for, so like keeping money in the business is super important for things. And I'm actually very grateful at this point, given everything that's going on in the world, that I got that lesson last year. Yeah. So when we entered this year and things kind of went a little haywire, we had a nice cushion because I had pretty much pumped the brakes on taking any distributions out of my business for a good 6 months. And I just saved everything in the business. And that was a huge learning lesson for me.
Amazing. Yeah, it's interesting, new levels, new devils, right? And you think, I'm going to get a new employee that's going to help so much and relieve so much of my stress because I won't be doing it all. And then you think, you're still waking up at 1:30 in the night going, oh my God, no, I have to pay that person.
So that's kind of what it felt like. Honestly, it was like, wait a minute, this is not the same thing as paying contractors. And your commitment level to an employee is very different. And
yes, you have to show up.
Yeah, it's
every day.
Yeah, and now their livelihood is dependent on you. I mean, if they quit a job to come work for you, or, you know, it's just a totally different mindset. And looking back on it, I'm like, whew, I'm glad I went through that. It was a really great growth opportunity. But while I was going through it, it was scary. It was intimidating. It was not all roses.
So I want you guys to hear that like right back at the beginning of this question, you said, you know, like business is like a whole lot of mess all put together to make something successful. So like it's okay to kind of sit in those situations, and even if it is a growth opportunity, it doesn't always feel like roses, as you said. So thanks for sharing that. I think there's a lot of people nodding, listening to this and thinking, wow, yeah, okay, I get that. So that's great. So like, I guess if you could go back to the start of your business, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young entrepreneurial, I'm just doing a blog?
Okay.
self?
So I would say probably the number one thing that shocked me when I was starting, and, you know, that enthusiasm, and I still have a lot of enthusiasm for my business, but, you know, that new green, like, this is going to be amazing and all this stuff. But the big thing that hit me back then was decision fatigue, that I wish someone had told me. I mean, I had a demanding corporate job, at least I felt like I had a demanding corporate job, but nothing prepared me for the number of decisions that I remember at at the end of the day, sometimes my husband would ask me like a simple question, like, do you want to order dinner, or do you want to eat here, honey? And I'd be like, I cannot even process that question because I am so burned out. And that was actually hard on our marriage too, because I went from being on top of everything. Like, I am the keeper of all the things in the house. I'm very organized. And suddenly I didn't have the mental capacity to do what I was doing before. Yeah. And that was hard for him. He had no warning, and I couldn't have warned him because I didn't know what decision fatigue was until then. And that was probably like the hardest thing. And if I could go back and talk to her, first, I would have warned her. And second, I would have developed better systems to help eliminate some of that decision fatigue. Yeah. It was just, I think I was trying to do too much at once as well. And we all do when we're starting here. I mean, shiny object is a real thing for everyone. And oftentimes I've yet to meet an entrepreneur that's not multi-passionate. So, you know, we have millions of, I always say my problem is not the lack of ideas to make money. Yeah. I can make money in so many ways. The problem is staying focused enough and driven enough on the one idea to make it successful.
Yes, so. I completely agree. And I totally understand decision fatigue, and all the mums out there probably understand this as well. You know, do we use these nappies or these nappies? Do they go to bed at this time or this time or this time or this time? Or like, is it the left boob that you feed them from or the right boob? Or did I do the left boob last time? Or you meant to drain one and then change them and then do the other one? Or you meant to do one and then the other and then change them and then go back again? Do you use cream? Do you use nipple guards? Do you do? Oh my God, I totally get it. It was just crazy times. And, you know, in the end, I think I just chose a book. Well, I did. I went with one book, and I was like, okay, people love her, people hate her. Everyone will know who I'm talking about. And I was like, I'm just going to go with this book, and that is going to be my Bible, and I'm just going to use that book. And all of my friends are like, you should use your gut. And I was like, my gut is confused, okay? My gut is like totally confused, and all it is hungry. So I'm just going to use one book. So I think that's the same with starting your business, right? Like, pick a mentor, pick a lane, pick a book, pick something, and just stick at it for, you know, at least 90 days and give it time to come into fruition. So many people, when I ask this question, have said just have the faith that in 4 years' time it will be done, and not chop and change. And you know.
I totally agree, especially with all the voices. There's not a lack of experts out there to learn from. Mm-hmm. But I do think, I was actually just having this conversation with one of my employees today, because when stuff started to change for me is I had picked one mentor. I followed everything she said. And the thing is when you choose to do that, no two people are alike. So essentially everyone's teaching from their own experience too. So find someone who you resonate with, who has a business that looks like what you would like your business to look like, follow their steps. But at some point you'll get to and you'll know when this is, that you will diverge because something you just want to do different, but it's getting those initial steps, like following. I'm a very step-by-step person. So for me, when it really clicked was when I really honed in. I don't like open loops, and I don't like not completing things. So it's like where my type A really comes in. And I was like, I will complete this program no matter what.
Yeah.
So I did. And my business doesn't look anything like what I thought it was going to look like in the beginning. But it was just getting that momentum, because business is really like a big snowball at the end of the day. Like one of my friends described it early on to me. She's like, the first $5 you make online will be your hardest. And then basically like she described it, because she had just crossed $10,000 at this point. I remember thinking, what? Like at that point I was like, who can make $10,000 online? I was just enamored by it. I couldn't even believe that was a thing. And she's like, honestly, making $10,000 is easier than making my first 1,000. And I thought, you're lying to me right now.
Yeah, crazy.
Like, no, because it's the snowball. And now I'm like, I'm still really good friends with her. I'm like, man, you were so wise back then.
Classic. So what legacy do you want to leave, create and leave in the online space?
Oh, that a lot of my passion is centered around helping women gain financial literacy and not being afraid to talk about money. And stop apologizing. I want women to stop apologizing about having money, asking for what they want. So my experience in corporate was good and bad. And there were some good parts and bad parts. But one of the things I learned was that men are not afraid to ask for what they want, and they don't apologize for it. Yeah. And I also believe strongly, one of my biggest things is I strongly feel like women should have financial independence, whether they're married or not. Women should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And oftentimes we're told as kids, as little girls, that, a knight in shining armor is going to support us. And you know what? That doesn't need to. My husband was raised very traditionally, and I tell him, I'm like, all traditions aside, you could die tomorrow. And then where does that leave me? And we have 2 daughters, and I'm super passionate about them. I don't let my daughter guilt me about working. Like one time, a couple years ago, she closed my laptop on me and told me I was done working. And I looked at her and said, now go do that to your father. She would never have done that to him. So, I want women to basically achieve financial independence. Like that is what I want to contribute to the world through my online business.
Amazing. And it's so needed, that new, it sounds like it's like a new wave of women, and it sounds ridiculous because we're in this world where we can vote and we've got women prime ministers and and all this sort of like equal rights, but really it's not, because when I left my husband earlier this year, my mum had several nervous breakdowns in my house when she's meant to be coming up and supporting me to make sure that everything's okay, and her big breakdown was like, well, how are you going to afford it?
And did anyone ask your husband that?
No one ever asked him that, right? And that just really grated me to the core, like explosion, like it grates me now. And I was like, well, what do you think I do? Do you think I just sit on my fanny at home all day doing nothing? Like, really? And I think that it's so close to our generation that it's easy to pass those thoughts on. So I really applaud you for creating that buck in the trend and showing your daughters that no, you need to be able to look after yourself, and it's not something that's like a big masculine testosterone based thing. It's just a human right.
It's absolutely a human right. That is a really great way to say it. It is a basic human right, and every adult should be able to take care of themselves. Like, why? Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I have to rely on someone else to take care of me. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. And that is exactly how I want the message I want my girls to receive. And I feel like this business, one of the greatest things it's afforded me is the ability to actually demonstrate that for them.
Yeah.
And, you know, like if I have a disagreement with my husband over money, okay, I have my own.
Yeah.
I mean, like my policy. So this is my policy. I'm not asking for permission. I'm stating what I'm doing. And if you have a problem with it, you can come back with a very logical argument of why that's maybe a really bad idea. And I will take that under advisement. But since I'm an adult who makes her own money, this is what I'm doing.
Exactly. Totally. Love it. Absolutely love it. So if this has really resonated with you guys that you're listening, or it's even aggravated you, because for some people it will aggravate you, which is great, because if something like hits on a button for you, you absolutely have to explore it. So how can, and if you want to show your children or, and have that independent financial ability, then how can people get in touch with you? What's the best place, Monica?
Yeah, so everything right now lives under redefiningmom.com. We're spinning up a new brand under my name, monicafroze.com, which will be live soon. But you can find me on either site because they'll link to each other. And if you want to know more about Pinterest ads, since that was like where we circled in the middle on this, I do have a free course. It's called Pin Practical Ads, and you can get that at redefiningmom.com/ads.
Right. Okay. Amazing. So we will pop that in the show notes. I'm going to be really excited to have a look at that as well, because it is definitely something that's been spinning around in the ethos around me. And I think it's something that's really untouched. And
I do too.
Untouched advertising is the perfect advertising.
Yeah. Agreed.
So the last soundbite I always end on is, what's your favorite one-liner that you give yourself to get momentum in your business daily?
I don't do failure.
There you go. I don't do failure. Perfect. Love it. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Monica. It was really, really great to talk to you, really inspiring, really empowering. And I'm sure a lot of people will have found this episode to be really uplifting, and they're going to go and look at their Pinterest a whole lot differently and see it not as a tool to design children's birthday parties, but actually as a business tool as well, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. And if you guys have loved this show, then please go and leave a review. I'd be very, very honored if you would leave a review. You go to ratethispodcast.com/penny, and there's simple instructions there, and then it goes across all the different platforms. So it really does help us to get the podcast out to more people, so we can get people like Monica's voice out to everyone about, empowering women to stand on their own 2 feet, really, and be okay with it. So make sure that you guys pop on over there, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks. If you love the woo with the do, and you want to dive deeper into how you too can get and keep momentum in your business, then join thousands of other online entrepreneurs like yourself and head on over to Amazon and grab a copy of my book, Get Momentum, your ultimate guide to create 100K in 100 days without fear, overwhelm, and burnout. And while it's being delivered to you, you'll have time to leave a 5-star review of the podcast before you head on over to the next episode.